Aloha, I'm John Okutani, a third-generation Japanese American and volunteer docent at the Okage Samade Historical Gallery at the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii. Welcome to our virtual tour of the Departure from Japan and Arrival in Hawaii segment of the exhibit. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to receive more content. Mahalo to the CPB Foundation and our other sponsors for their continued support. I've often wondered about my ancestors and how and when they came to Hawaii. Why did they leave Japan and come to Hawaii? Leaving their homes, friends, and family to settle in a foreign land. My first-generation family and more than 218,000 Japanese citizens who immigrated to Hawaii and the U.S. mainland between 1868 and 1924. It is this huge exodus of immigrants and the legacy that they left behind that should not be forgotten, but honored and treasured. Today, we continue to reap the benefits of those who came before us, those who pioneered, those who struggled and persevered to make life better for us. At the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii, or JCCH, the Historical Gallery exhibit, Okage Samade, or I Am What I Am Because of You, tells the story of Japanese immigration to Hawaii. It depicts the journey of those early Japanese immigrant pioneers and the generations that followed. The gallery is an excellent place and resource to immerse oneself in the lives and struggles of those early immigrants. It also provides a basis for answering some of my personal historical questions about my own family's journey to Hawaii. At the beginning of the historical gallery, the question is posed, should I stay home or go to a faraway land? This immigration story is not unique to the Japanese, but parallels the immigration of all other ethnic groups, Europeans, Chinese, Portuguese, Filipino, Korean, Puerto Rican, and alike, who also came to Hawaii during that same time period. These early ethnic groups of immigrants encountered much the same as the Japanese in terms of hardship, prejudice, low pay, and overcoming injustice, all while pursuing their American dream of a better life for themselves and succeeding generations. The first official Japanese immigrants of 148 persons arrived in Hawaii in 1868 to work on the sugar plantations. They were called the Ganen Mono, or first-year people. Japan in 1868 was a time of great turmoil, as after 265 years, the Tokugawa shogunate rule ended and the Emperor Meiji took over. The Tokugawa government approved sending the Ganen Mono to Hawaii, but the new Meiji government had not. The Hawaii representative in Japan, Eugene Van Reed, could not wait any longer and ordered the British ship Kyoto to sail on May 17, 1868, without the new government's approval. This caused a huge diplomatic uproar between Japan and the Hawaiian government. A year later, in 1869, Special Japanese Envoy Ueno Kagenori was sent to Hawaii to recall all of the Ganen Mono back to Japan. An agreement was eventually worked out whereby those who wanted to return to Japan could, and those who wanted to stay could also finish their 3-year contract. In the end, 40 to 50 of the Ganen Mono remained in Hawaii to live permanently. With the difficulties of the Ganen Mono experience, Meiji leaders were concerned about new diplomatic relations, treaties, and economic agreements still to be worked out with other countries. Consequently, emigration of their citizens to other countries were stopped. There were no mass immigrations from Japan for the next 17 years. Credit for restarting the Japanese immigration movement to Hawaii is attributed to King David Kalakaua and his desire to strengthen independence of the Hawaiian Kingdom. He actively recruited workers from the surrounding Asian Pacific countries to help strengthen his nation diplomatically and economically. He had a special affinity for the Ganen Mono and Japanese people, and on his world tour in 1881, he met with Emperor Meiji. Follow-on talks by government ministers eventually led to formal agreements and resumption of Japanese immigration to Hawaii. In 1884, Japan agreed to resume immigration of their citizens to Hawaii to work on the sugar plantations. In February 1885, the first boatload of 944 Japanese Imin arrived in Hawaii. This group was called the Kanyaku Imin, or Government Contract Period Immigrants. This was the first of many boatloads to follow in periodic waves or time periods until 1924. These time periods generally followed political actions or events that were of an impact on immigrant lives and their ability to move outside and within U.S. borders. From 1885 to 1924, over 218,000 Japanese immigrants came to Hawaii, to include my grandparents. The first period, 1885 to 1900, was called the Government and Private Contract Period, with formal agreements between Japan and the Kingdom of Hawaii, and following the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom in 1893, the Republic of Hawaii. 1900 to 1908 was called the Free Immigration Period, created when in 1900 the United States proclaimed Hawaii as their territory to be governed under U.S. law. Most labor contracts signed under the previous Hawaiian governments were then null and void. This freed many immigrants to move out from the plantations and into the local community and U.S. mainland seeking better opportunities. In 1908, due to these mainland migrations and increased anti-Asian pressure, particularly on the U.S. West Coast, a gentleman's agreement was signed between the U.S. and Japan, restricting new immigration to the U.S. It allowed for only those Japanese citizens already legally in Hawaii and the U.S. and their relatives in Japan to immigrate. No new immigrants. Also, no migration of Hawaii Japanese to the U.S. mainland was allowed. These restrictions caused the picture bride practice to flourish, with about 20,000 of them coming to Hawaii and the U.S. mainland during this period in 1924. In 1924, with increased and further anti-Asian discrimination on the U.S. mainland, the restrictive immigration policy was replaced with passage of the U.S. Immigration Act of 1924. This was also known as the Asian Exclusion Act, whereby all Japanese immigration stopped. In my personal story, my grandparents on my mother's side, Kuahara, immigrated during the early contract and government period, 1885 to 1900. They initially worked as laborers on the Waiakea plantation in Hilo. On my father's side, Okutani, my grandparents immigrated during the free immigration period, 1900 to 1908. They also initially went to the Waiakea plantation to work. These two first-generation families eventually became acquaintances in Hilo. Both families came from the same prefecture in Japan, and at that time, this was a commonplace reason for them to socially get to know each other, either at the plantation or in Hilo. Eventually, at different times, the two families moved to Honolulu, seeking other opportunities to better their lives and raise their growing families. During the restricted immigration period, 1908 to 1924, Grandfather Okutani also brought over his father, or my great-grandfather, and his sisters to Hawaii. At least one sister was a picture bride. Coincidentally, over 3 decades later, in 1937, the second generation of these two families, Okutani and Kuahara, my mother and father, would by chance meet in Honolulu and later married. These early arrivals of Japanese Imin established my family roots in Hawaii that continues to this day. I've often wondered what enticed them to come here. What were their personal motivations coming to a foreign land, hardly understanding the language, with a bare minimum of clothes and essentials, leaving a culture and life in Japan, possibly forever? Why did they also decide to remain in Hawaii and not return to Japan? Over 50% of these immigrants eventually returned to Japan permanently. Unfortunately, all of my first-generation ancestors on both sides had passed away before I was either born or consciously inquisitive of my family's historical roots, so I never got to know them. About the only link and connection that I have now is what they have passed down through the second generation to me, the third generation, that of a strong sense of Japanese immigrant values. In the JCCH gallery, there are 12 stone pillars representing 13 values that early Japanese immigrants were most strongly identified with. The following are a few that resonate with me. Gamang, or quiet endurance. Enduring adversity when you experience it, taking it without complaining and handling it silently, knowing that this is the best course to follow without creating more trouble. Words like quit complaining and just work through it, not letting adversity overwhelm you. haji, or shame. A very strong behavioral influence in that you don't want to stick your neck out, stand out from the crowd, and embarrass yourself. A huge influence growing up, creating that reticent or reserved behavior, opposite of the American value of speaking out or the squeaky wheel gets the grease mentality. Don't cause shame on yourself or family by doing or saying dumb things. Don't embarrass yourself and the family. Okori, or pride. Always do your best in whatever you do. Don't do things halfway, sloppy, or mediocre. Have pride in what you do and do it well. Gambari, or perseverance. Never give up easily. If things are difficult, keep on trying to accomplish the task. If you meet a roadblock, find other ways to get around or through it. In the early days, we used to call these folks hard-headed. These days, they are called persistent. Don't give up. Growing up, there were no stone pillars in our yard to remind us of these values. They were instilled in us by our parents, uncles, aunties, and siblings, either through their inherent behavior and actions, or by them telling us, have pride in your work, persevere, don't give up, and don't bring shame to your family. Clearly these and the other values displayed in the gallery were a big part of the first-generation Japanese immigrants. It helped them to meet the challenges of coming to a foreign land to work and make a better life for themselves and future generations. These values are ingrained throughout the odyssey of the Japanese immigrants to Hawaii and are clearly exhibited in the Okage Samade Historical Gallery. We have only scratched the surface about the story and legacy of the Japanese Imin that came in waves from the 19th century to settle in Hawaii and eventually forged their legacy through later generations. The Okage Samade Historical Gallery will take you through that time and place and that experience. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to receive more content. Mahalo to the CPB Foundation and our other sponsors for their continued support.